Hey you, and welcome. My name is Mike, and in this whole video, we're gonna look at the case of Cheryl Coker, who went missing in October of 2018, if you can believe it. Cheryl was a mom of two, living in Ohio, and after she had started filing for divorce, well, wouldn't she just so happen to disappear? Oh no. And on the day she went missing, we have some very, suspicious surveillance footage. But after that, things would go quiet for a long time. But not too long. Let's have a go. In the city of Riverside, Ohio, part of the Dayton metropolitan area, lives about 25,000 people, one of which was Cheryl Coker. Cheryl was the youngest of 4 children, described as a lovely, friendly person who could make you happy by just giving you a big ol' grin. Cheryl was married once. It was a short-lived marriage, and out of that marriage, 3 times I said marriage, came her first daughter, Marissa. After this divorce, Cheryl, bills to pay, she ended up getting a job at General Motors, working the line with the lads, and it was there that she met Bill Coker, and they hit it off pretty fast. Now, old Bill was a quiet guy, quite the opposite of bubbly, talkative Cheryl. In July 1999, Bill and Cheryl got married. Bill adopted Cheryl's daughter Marissa, and Cheryl and Bill would go on to have a child together in 2003, Michaela. And so the years went by for this happy little family. Or so it seemed. Bill and Cheryl would eventually become grandparents to Marissa's own daughter, while Bill and Cheryl's, also their own daughter, Michaela, growed up. And so this is when things take a turn. Not for the better. At about 7 a.m. on the 2nd of October 2018, 46-year-old Cheryl Coker dropped her daughter Michaela off at high school. This was part of her normal routine. She would drop her daughter off at school in the morning, then go home for a bit, and then head off to work herself. However, after she dropped her daughter off at high school, she kind of vanished. No one knows where she went, or do they? Because she did go home, her phone did at least, and after that nobody knows. She would usually call her daughter to check up when she got home from school. No dice this day. Not picking up her phone at all, which was weird for her. By the time the evening rolled around, no one knew where she was. She was a no-show at work. Michaela started calling around, called her sister, Marissa. No one had heard from her or been able to get through to her all day. Now, Cheryl never went anywhere without her phone. It was attached to her at the hip, and she was always on it. It wasn't like something she would lose. So she's not picking up her phone. Something could be very wrong. In the early morning hours of the 3rd of October, Cheryl was reported missing. The alarm starts to go off. A BOLO alert goes out. Be on the lookout. Now, as the hours go by on the 3rd of October, Michaela then gets the idea to use, hey, how about good old Find My iPhone? Michaela figured out her mother's password, and then, using Find My iPhone, located her mother's phone. It was in a parking lot of a Kroger's grocery store. This was about maybe a mile from Cheryl's home. They rock up and find her car. The door was locked, her phone inside. So, after Cheryl's family found the car, they alerted the police. They come down, crack it open, and well, all her stuff is inside the car too. Her purse, her cards, her kabosha, all that stuff is in there. So, what happened? Next thing is Cheryl's husband, Bill. He comes down and starts yapping away to the detectives. He tells them that the previous day, after Cheryl dropped their daughter off at high school, she came back and asked Bill to help jumpstart her car while she jumped in the shower. Now, he says he was unable to do so. He was unable to start her car, which is weird for 2 things. A, she was just driving it. She dropped her daughter off at high school and then drove home, so It's hardly the battery, but could be a spark plug, whatever. And 2, how did her car get to where it was found? He said, though, that was the last time he had spoken to her. He didn't even see her that day. He spoke to her while she was having a shower. He spoke to her through the door. And then he says, okay, I tried to get her car running. Lads, kicked a tire, it's fucked. He went back to bed. So already Bill's story is a bit shady, a bit shifty. Kind of just weird. Doesn't really make much sense.
Both family and police say the disappearance of a Riverside woman appears to be suspicious.
46-year-old Cheryl Coker was last seen Tuesday morning, and 2 News reporter Ethan Fitzgerald is asking questions about the search for the missing mom.
Riverside Detective Travis Abney says this case has quickly become urgent.
I would say it's definitely not normal. This is an odd case, to say the least.
Wednesday night, Detective Abney says the department recovered Coker's car in a parking lot off Burkhart and Spinning Road. Coker's 2016 Toyota Highlander was found near Clancy's Tavern. The car locked, but her belongings were still inside.
All of her personal belongings did remain inside the vehicle. Her purse, cell phone, wallet, ID, credit cards, etc., which added to the suspicion, to say the least.
Coker is a mother of 2, and her family says these circumstances just don't add up.
The next day, the police got a hold of Cheryl's phone activity. From 7:35 a.m. to about 10:50 a.m., the day she went missing, she was at home after having dropped her daughter off, made some social media posts, texts, and then from about 8 a.m. onwards, all communication stops. Then, at about 10:55 a.m., her cell phone pinged near the Kroger's grocery store, where her car would be found. The police got CCTV showing her car entering the parking lot. But, the crucial thing, what we all want to know, who's driving it? Well, they couldn't tell. Because the CCTV camera was motion activated. It picked up her car parking, then stopped recording because there was no motion. A person getting out of the car would have been too far away for the camera to pick up, I guess. Then it starts up a few minutes later when people walked into the frame. But whoever had been driving Cheryl's car was long gone. The police then basically go back to basics. Door to door, PC plod hitting the bricks. They interview Cheryl's friends, maybe thinking they could find out maybe something about her, might help solve this missing persons report. Because at this time, they're still thinking, maybe she just left by herself, maybe she just decided to run away. It hadn't quite reached a more serious stage yet. And they found out from Cheryl's friends that Bill and Cheryl's marriage was a bit stinky. Years earlier, about 12 years earlier, Cheryl found a second phone belonging to Bill. And it came to light he was off banging someone else. She threatened divorce, so he zipped up his pants, but later, they decided to try an open marriage. Ground rules were, it seems, that A, if you're going to be off porking someone else, just let the other person know. And B, no falling in love. No one knew about this other than their, close friends. So, this goes on for a few years, until, in April 2018, 6 months before Cheryl's disappearance, Bill starts a relationship with a co-worker. And he starts to fall for her. This was devastating to Cheryl, so divorce was back on the cards. She threatens to divorce him again, but Bill says, okay, I'm going to stop seeing this chick, but he doesn't. Literally after him and Cheryl had that conversation where she threatened divorce again, he texted her minutes later saying, hey, can't wait to bang you. And when Cheryl finds out about this, well, shit hits the fan. Now, Bill didn't want to get divorced. He thought it would look bad. It would be bad for his image. I don't know why, because people get divorced all the time. But Cheryl, after almost 19 years of marriage, she was done. On the 21st of September 2018, Cheryl filed for divorce, and this made Bill pretty angry. He even tried to run her off the road in his car. He then, after this, went on holiday with his girlfriend and daughter and returned home on the 1st of October 2018. Around this time, Cheryl texted a friend saying, I'll be in to work tomorrow if I'm not dead. So she had a bad feeling about old Bill. Next, the police discovered more surveillance footage, and this time there was no motion sensor. They could see everything. and it shows a man dressed in all black, hood up, leaving Cheryl's car. Now this definitely already looks suspect, and it was a hot day that day. 27 degrees Celsius, 80 Fahrenheit. Must have been sweating like a pig in that. And they could tell that's not Cheryl. No shit. So they're pretty sure the guy walking out of Cheryl's car is a bloke. And then, get this, a 911 call was made about that very same guy. When and where, you ask? Well, when was about 20 minutes after he left Cheryl's car that very same day. Where? On the road, just down the road from Cheryl's house, walking towards Cheryl's house.
There was a guy dressed in black hoodie on, and as he walked across in front of me, he hid his face. I made a circle around the block. He was coming up, and he put both hands over his face. I believe he's up to something.
Remember, Cheryl's car was only found about a mile from their home, easily, walkable. The 911 caller told the police he was walking towards the school, and the police got more CCTV of this guy walking towards the Coker home. Wonder who that was. So things are starting to clear up as to suspect numero uno.
After a week with few answers, Marissa Coker says it's hard to think about the possibilities of what could have happened to her mother, 46-year-old Cheryl Coker. Police say Coker was last seen the morning of October 2nd, dropping her other daughter off at school. Marissa says she last saw her mom the night before she went missing.
I was over there for about 3 hours. We were having a good time listening to music and everything.
Surveillance video shows her mother's car driving around this shopping center on Burkhart Road the day she was last seen, before parking near Clancy's Tavern. Motion-activated cameras turn off before anyone gets out of the vehicle. According to public records, Cheryl Coker had filed for divorce 11 days earlier. But her daughter tells me despite that, the 46-year-old crash technician wouldn't just run off or cut off contact with her family.
Bill, in the meantime, has not been very helpful to the police, hasn't been calling them, hasn't been helping in the search for Cheryl, which are still going on. People are still searching for her everywhere. He's basically just kind of wants nothing to do with it. They show the surveillance video to Bill. That can be anyone, come on! They then ask him, what do you think happened to Cheryl? To which he's like, we had an open marriage, lads. Maybe she RUNNOFT with someone. So the police went and spoke with some of the people she had swung with. All dead ends. They speak with Bill's girlfriend, and she told the police that 3 weeks before Cheryl even filed for divorce, in August of 2018, Cheryl had sent this woman some texts. Basically saying, if something happens to her, would you look after Bill? Which is weird. Something about that was definitely off. I mean, she was gonna file for... Why would she want to wish, she would look after somebody? This is... Cheryl was devastated and furious when she found out that Bill had a girlfriend that she didn't know about. It was, more than just a swinging thing. This was a proper relationship. Cheryl wasn't happy about it. I don't think she really gave a shit about Bill and this woman. So everything about that text just seemed weird to people. But let's go back to Bill, because 2 weeks after Cheryl disappeared, more footage comes in. It's from the very day Cheryl went missing, at about 8 p.m, and this time it's undoubtedly Bill. He's in the Kroger's store, the one Cheryl's car was found at, wearing all black, and an injury on his arm was visible. Your arm's fucked. What happened there, Billy? He refuses to answer, also refuses to take a polygraph, though he later says he got scabs on his arm and swollen knuckles. He says he has swollen knuckles, but he got them from an injury at work. No big deal. Injury he didn't report, by the way. He said he was working a forklift. Arm got fucked. Were you punching the bloody forklift? He would also tell the police that $4,000 were missing from a shoebox hidden in the closet, and he suspected Cheryl had run off with it. 4 months after her disappearance, her case was classed as a homicide.
So at this time, Riverside police are prepared to state that William Coker is the suspect. And could you term this case for us? What is this switched over to?
We're now treating this as a homicide investigation. there's a lot of information that we cannot discuss, but we've got some newly discovered evidence that is a key factor. And unfortunately, we're not going to be able to comment on that right now, but that leads us to direct this to a homicide investigation, no longer just a missing person case.
And on camera now, the suspect or suspects that you have in mind for this?
William Coker, Cheryl's husband, is our one and only suspect at this time.
One of the things that Detective Stewart was going to talk about was William's behavior and demeanor throughout this investigation. 4.5 months now. Could you tell us, how helpful or not helpful he's been?
Mr. Coker has appeared for interviews we've conducted of him. One of the things is his concern as far as Cheryl's disappearance. 4.5 months. Converse with Detective Abney. We're talking maybe one time. Mr. Coker has questioned us about, do we have any leads on the case? Is there any information you can provide me? I am her husband. Is there anything you can tell me? So one time in 4.5 months, we've been contacted by Mr. Coker in regards to Cheryl's whereabouts, concerning whether or not she's even alive. Where's she at? So that's kind of concerning to us. Another part of Mr. Coker's cooperation, he has come in, like I said, to be interviewed and talked to about this investigation. We have asked Mr. Coker to take a polygraph. At this current time, after multiple requests for a polygraph, Mr. Coker is reluctant to do so at this time.
Is it tough to try? Do you feel like you're trying to prove a negative? In other words, you're trying, that you're in a spot where you're almost trying to prove that you didn't kill your wife? Is that how you feel?
Yeah, I guess, yeah. Yeah.
Do you have any idea what happened to Cheryl?
She was behaving in some pretty risky behavior right before she disappeared. And I haven't really been willing to put that out there because I didn't want to hear about it.
But now the finger's pointing at you, right?
Yeah.
The police are saying you're the suspect, so, you need to try and convince people that you're not.
Yeah.
The question that police would ask you, or our audience would ask you, did you have anything to do with Cheryl's death? Did you kill her?
No, I didn't. I did not.
And you have any...
I've never in my entire life hurt anyone.
And the search for Cheryl Coker continued. Search warrants were executed on their home, looking through their bank accounts, bills, phone bills, truck, everything, and nothing.
If you have any information about Cheryl Coker, give the Riverside Police Department a call at the number you see here on your screen.
The search for Cheryl Coker continues 17 months later.
1 year since Riverside Police named her husband as the suspect, but he has not been arrested or charged.
What we learned new today from Riverside Police is that they have issued new search warrants in
Today, EquiSearch leaders are more confident than ever that they will find her after conducting a large search effort in an undisclosed location in Vandalia.
We're one step away. I think we're in the right church, but we got to find the right pew.
Most people that are named a murder suspect in any case quickly end up here if police know where they are. But William Coker is not here, and there are people questioning whether that is the right approach.
A person of interest who law enforcement believes has information for them. A suspect is someone law enforcement believes may be involved in a crime.
UD Law Professor Thaddeus Hoffmeister says it is unusual that William Coker was not taken into custody after Riverside Police named him a suspect in what they now call Cheryl Coker's homicide. But he says investigators may have a number of solid reasons for that decision.
You have to be able to prove that the woman has died. I don't know if they have that proof. It's somewhat hard without a body.
I found some bones along the side of the road.
Okay.
I was actually wearing clothes, I think.
The officers went down, detectives were called out. We recovered several bones and a skull that evening, and went back out to the scene today with BCI. The bones that were recovered were taken to the Montgomery County Crime Lab, and those bones were identified this afternoon as that of Cheryl Coker, missing out of Riverside.
On the 25th of April 2020, the remains of Cheryl Coker were finally found by a mushroom hunter. This was on a remote wooded area about 15 minutes drive from her home. She wasn't buried or anything like that, she was just left out on the grass. The cause of death has yet to be determined, though there were no obvious signs of injuries to Cheryl Coker before her death. So, after all that searching, it's a huge relief to the family that at least they have some form of closure. At least she's been found, but it raises more questions than answers. It'll be interesting to see where this case goes from here. Bill Coker is still a free man, out and about. If he is guilty, as the police suspect he is, he used their number one, darts on a board. What actually happened to Cheryl, we don't know. Her body was outside for a while, so maybe that will affect what their findings will be. And it's still pretty recent, so they haven't released much as to cause of death and, any more evidence and that kind of stuff. But what's interesting is that her body wasn't hidden really well. I mean, it was just left out on the grass. It wasn't buried or anything. It almost is like they didn't try to hide it very well, whoever did it. They're still eyeing up Bill, but who knows, maybe that will change with what they find at the scene of where Cheryl's body was found. It's interesting they haven't charged him yet, and the reason they hadn't charged him for so long was because they had no body, and they wanted to, cross the T's, dot the I's. So we'll see if any of that changes now. And that's the story of the disappearance of Cheryl Coker, to date, at least. I mean, we'll just have to see what we see, what the examiners and investigators see and uncover, but this case could get a hell of a lot more disturbing and interesting. If a whole lot of new stuff pops up, I might cover it again in a part 2, so let's just see. Alright, thank you so much for watching. I really, really appreciate it. I will see you as always real soon in the next video. Take care of yourselves. Mike out.